Tenzapamo, Anila's here. Good, thank you for joining. This is the last class before Christmas with the science and reasonings. One more class with Nagarjuna on Thursday. That's it for a bit. So the connection doesn't seem to be very good, but we'll see. So Maria's here. Central Color Chakra, well, that's Francois, isn't it?
Yeah, that's me. I have two accounts. I just do a try for the connection.
Yeah,
hello.
Two connections. Hello, Maria.
Hi.
Okay, well, let's see how we get on then. So last week we were doing the correct effect signs, of course, and we sort of got some things to think about there. We had some discussion actually, so we didn't get to the end of that little group of the divisions of correct effect signs. So the question that I sort of maybe left you with, or I thought I left you with, is you know, looking at these different types of correct effect signs. So the subject on the smoky pass, fire exists because smoke exists. You know, smoke in that syllogism is correct sign. That's given as a correct effect sign. What does it say? A correct effect sign which proves a cause direct. Yeah, but just because it proves a cause direct, is that enough to distinguish these type of correct effect signs of the first type? So, you know, then I came up with that one, you know, in the dish, in the bean sprouting dish on your windowsill, it follows that seed exists because sprout exists. And sprout is, of course, direct effect of seed. So, you know, you put your seed into the dish where you sprout your bean sprouts in the kitchen. Maybe just one seed, you see, so it's all very clear. One bean seed with your little bit of soft cloth with water on it or something. So then that bean sprout emerges from the seed. But how is that not a correct sign? You know, if the on the smoky pass, fire exists because smoke exists is a correct sign, then shouldn't on the bean sprouting dish on the windowsill, it follows that seed exists because sprout exists. Shouldn't that be a correct sign also? Is it a correct sign? Marie, do you get what I'm talking about? Maybe you need to switch on.
Sorry, I unmute. Yes, I think I do know why and what is the difference. I'm not sure if I can put it in correct terms though, but the thing is that the sprout is the result of the seed, and the seed ceases to exist when the sprout comes to existence, whereas the smoke and the fire can also, like, of course, the smoke results from the fire, but in the smoky part, sorry,
Yes, exactly.
The smoke is the result of the fire. Yes, so the sprout is the result of the seed. Here we are; they are still the same, but the fire does not necessarily cease to exist when the smoke appears, although that moment of fire which produced that smoke has ceased to exist. And Keshila, thank you for the invitation. And then but in the example, the smoke was being followed in order to, smoke was the sign of fire. So the sign was followed to reveal the existence of the fire, the cause. Whereas with the sprout, now the sprout is the sign that, well, I don't know. Sorry. I think I must stop there because that's all I can say. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously it's not a correct sign because the one seed in the little dish turned into a sprout, so it's no longer there. So you can no longer look into the dish and expect to see a seed there. What seed there was has turned into a sprout, so it's not working. But so if you said, so somebody debates to you or to any of you, the subject in the bean sprouting dish on the windowsill, it follows that the seed exists because sprout exists. So if this is not a correct sign, then
Accept.
so if you accept, then it says it is a correct sign because it is the three modes in that proof, in the proof of the existence of a seed in the bean sprouting dish. It is a correct sign in the proof of that because it is the three modes in the proof of that.
Why?
Because it is the first mode, property of the subject, the second mode, the forward pervasion, and it is the third mode, the counter pervasion.
Can I say why again?
Well, you can say reason not established.
Reason not established. Yeah.
Which reason is not established? Is it the property of the subject? It's not the property of the subject. It's not the forward pervasion. It's not the counter pervasion.
I won't be able to answer that, I'm afraid. I'm sorry, I can't. Someone else has to defend on my behalf.
Fine. Francois? How about you?
So what's wrong there?
Yeah, it is a correct sign because it is the three modes. That's the way the challenger is coming at you. So you have to say, you're going to say it's not a correct sign, just have a reason not established. So which of the three modes does it not? Is it not?
So let's say on the forward pervasion.
The subject sprout, it is the forward pervasion in the proof of seed existing in the sprouting dish on the windowsill because by the person for whom it has become the second mode of the sign in the proof of the seed as existing in that dish, it is ascertained in existing solely in the similar class in the proof of that.
Can you state the syllogism again, Geshe-la?
Yeah, in the dish, sprouting dish on the windowsill, the seed exists because the sprout exists. Yeah, so sprout exists solely in the similar class. Yeah, so that means like sprout can only, sprout only exists where on the basis of seed. Yeah, it only exists.
Yeah.
With
Yeah, I accept.
Through the presence of or through the assistance or whatever of the seed, through the activity of the seed or through the being, through the existence of the seed.
Mm-hmm.
Never find a sprout where there's been no seed before.
So the property of the subject is not established.
Oh, so the forward pervasion is established then? It is the forward pervasion.
Yeah.
Sprout is the forward pervasion. The proof of seed is existing on the sprouting dish. Yeah. Okay, but it's not the property of the subject.
Accept.
The subject sprout. It is the property of the subject in the proof of the seed existing in the sprouting dish of the windowsill because by the person for whom it has become the property of the subject in the proof of seed existing in the sprouting dish, it is ascertained as only existent in accordance with the mode of statement on the sprouting dish.
On the sprout?
Yeah, on the subject, yeah. It's only existent on the subject. Sprout is only existent on the dish with the sprout in it. Yeah, if you've got a dish with a sprout in it, is there a sprout in it? Yes, we've seen that.
Yes, okay, so it's established. Yeah.
It is the property of the subject.
I accept.
So it follows then the subject sprout and the proof of the existence of the seed in the sprouting dish on the windowsill. It is the forward pervasion, and it is the property of the subject,
I accept.
and it is the counter pervasion.
I accept also.
So it is a correct sign in the proof of the seed being existing in the sprout in the sprouting dish, in the bean sprout dish.
Why?
Because it is the three modes in the proof of that.
No pervasion.
There's a pervasion because that which is the three modes in the proof of that is the definition of correct sign in the proof of that. So
No
if it is the
pervasion.
modes in the proof of that, it is necessarily the correct sign in the proof of that, because that which is the three modes, in the proof of that is the definition of correct sign in the proof of that.
Mm.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's what we got to last week. So has anybody got any offering on that, to say why it's not a correct sign? Obviously it's not a correct sign. Obviously it's not, but why not? If it fulfills the three modes, it has to be a correct sign. Anybody would like to volunteer? There's some guys here have been debating it in Orlando.
I'm not clear on what the syllogism is. In the sprouting dish.
On the sprouting dish, on the
On the
windowsill.
sprouting dish. On the sprouting dish.
Well, we probably say in a dish, won't we? In the dish.
I don't know, I'm sprouting. I haven't even got the syllogism. I'm completely lost.
Well, I thought we were carrying on from last week, that's all. So, okay, you want to sprout some bean sprouts in your kitchen, yeah?
It's just the syllogism.
Yeah, so in the dish with the bean sprout in it, on the windowsill.
Yeah.
It follows that seed exists because sprout exists. And it's unparalleled for that is like, on the smoky pass, on the pass with smoke on it, it follows that fire exists because smoke exists. It's just a parallel to that. So it might help you to think about it. Yes, Jakob.
And I thought there's a difference because with the bean and the sprout, these are the bean is the substantial cause of the sprout, whereas for the fire is the positive condition for smoke. This is
So the smoke is not the substantial effect. It follows that smoke is not the substantial effect of fire. But they're both similar in being causes, yeah. The fire is the cause, and the bean seed is the cause, and then the smoke's the effect, and the bean sprout's the effect.
Yeah.
So I don't see a great deal of difference. You can point out that difference. It is a difference, maybe a small difference, but it doesn't affect the problem the defender's got to answer here. Yes, Renato.
Well, the problem is, as Maria kind of was pointing towards, is that in the example of fire on smoky pass and there's hot smoke, if we see smoke, although the direct cause, the one moment of fire, which is smoke, has ceased, there is still another moment of fire present here. Whereas in the example of the seed and sprout, as soon as the sprout comes into existence, there's no moment of seed present anymore, so it cannot be a cause direct at the time of the effect. Kind of, it must be like it's like putting a preceding cause.
Yes.
Existence,
Yes, so
existence.
the one, if you want to make a correct sign out of the one of the bean sprout and the bean seed, then it's more like the second one. Yeah, considering that the bean sprout in the dish is preceded by its called seed because it is a sprout. So if you're looking at the 5 different types of correct effect sign, when you want to make a sign out of the bean seed and bean sprout, you want to make one like the second.
Yeah.
The second, at the time of stating the subject smoke in the sky is preceded by its cause, a seed because it is a sprout. Yeah, so that would be that's good understanding. But I want to know why, if somebody constructs it like the first one, why it isn't the correct sign. So that's my main question. But to differentiate between the relationship between seed and sprout and fire and smoke, it's not that, you know, one is a substantial cause, substantial effect versus cause, you know, cooperative cause and cooperative effect. That's not the crucial difference. It's more like what you're saying. So you're sort of staggering towards getting the difference correct. Can I posit the difference? Yeah, it's more like you've got a continuum, you see. It's more like you've got a continuum, isn't it? Like, it's only the first moment of the sprout that is the direct effect of the seed. Well, you can say the sprout in general, the sprout as a whole is a direct effect of the seed. But when you break it down into moments, it's only the first moment of the sprout that's direct effect of seed. But in the case of smoke, every moment of smoke is a direct effect of fire. Every moment of smoke is a direct effect of its own, you know, causal fire. So that's the crucial difference. So you've got a continuum of smoke, yeah. So every time a moment of smoke arises, then it's come from a moment of fire, but more moments of fire are coming along because they've got to come along if the smoke is going to be a continuum. Yeah, so that's how one can be a correct sign and the other not.
So,
Except the very last moment of smoke, you know, then fire and smoke are simultaneous. Well, the very first moment, because the first moment was only fire, but there wouldn't be any smoke then, so we wouldn't be using smoke as a sign at the first moment. Yeah, so it's kind of, you know, when you've got a continuum of direct effect from direct cause, direct effect from direct cause, you know, smoke and fire then become simultaneous in many respects, except for the last moment. So you can look at the strongly billowing smoke in the sky and say, yeah, there's fire there. But you can't look at the sprout and say, oh, there's seed there, you see, because so there is a difference in you know, when you envisage it sort of practically. But that's all very good, and you should get that clear. That's very nice if you can figure that one out. But you've still got to say why isn't the correct sign? Which, if it's not a correct sign, it must not be the three modes. So which of the modes is it? Is it not? It's not the forward pervasion. Okay, the subject sprout in the proof of the existence of a seed in the dish with the bean sprout in it on the windowsill. It follows it is a forward pervasion because by the person of whom it is become the second mode of the sign in the proof of the bean sprout, the seed existing in the dish with the bean sprout in it, it is ascertained as existing solely in the similar class. In the proof of that, you only have a seed if you've got a, you know, if the causal seed, you know, it's only there in reference to that seed.
But you can also have a sprout without a seed having more.
But if sprout exists, seed necessarily exists. Yeah. So that's what the pervasion is saying, is if smoke exists, fire necessarily exists. And on the basis of that, so if sprout exists, seed necessarily exists by the same token. So nobody's saying they exist at the same time, but in terms of that, in terms of the three modes, you know, it doesn't say in the definition, no, it's got to be at the same time, or it doesn't have to be at the same time. There's no reference to that. So you should be able to identify how it doesn't fulfill at least one of those three modes. You can say, oh yes, but
can I try?
at the same time, but that's not included in the definition. Yes, please, Yael.
I'm thinking it's not the property of the subject. Because
Sprout, it is the property of the subject in that proof, because by the person for whom it is become the property of the subject in the proof of the seed existing in the dish with the sprout in it, it is ascertained as only existent in accordance with the mode of statement on the sprouting dish with the sprout in it.
yeah, so I think the only existent doesn't work. Because we say if it's only existent, there are no cases of non-existent, and not all the seeds sprout. So you cannot apply it to all the seeds, like we had this case with the tree that sleeps with his leaves curled.
Yeah, but this time we just posited one seed turning into one sprout.
But in the provision, you don't need to talk about if it's only existent, you just need to relate to one seed. You don't need to relate to all the seeds in general.
Well, it is existent as only existent. So that means only existence according to the modus stated on the subject. So you've got, what you're asking is like, does smoke exist on the smoky pass or not? Yeah. So does sprout exist in a dish with the bean sprout in it or not? It's very straightforward.
Okay.
So wherever there is a, you can say it exists on all dishes with bean sprouts in it. Does a bean sprout exist in all the dishes with bean sprouts in them? Well, of course, it does. Smoke exists on all smoky passes if you want to bring them all in.
Okay. So no.
Okay, so I'm not going to give the answer to that because I'm going to go on to the other example. So I'm not going to ignore you completely and just leave you completely like nobody can come up with an answer. Is anybody else offering an answer, by the way?
Can you just state say it all again in one? So consider the subject, the bean sprout on the dish.
Yeah.
There is a seed because there's a sprout. Is that what you said?
Yeah, in the bean sprout dish with a sprout in it, yeah. Follows a seed. There is a seed because there's a sprout.
Yeah. Okay.
But we were saying that seed exists, in that dish, seed exists because sprout exists, just like, on the smoky pass, fire exists because smoke exists. So it's just parallel. And this is another one I can, from the, if you get the sheets that we sent out last time, but we didn't actually get around to looking at the last debates that had been added on by our kind translator. So it's these Tariq debate, 13th of October, and the last two debates, page 55, page 61. So it's page 55 I'd like to look at. This is the classic debate which goes around all the debating grounds when you talk about this, correct effect signs.
But Geshe-la, can I ask, is it now when you state that a seed exists when the sprout exists? So do you now say that there is also the seed that used to exist taken into account? Because obviously there is no more seed now.
Yes, at one time the seed did exist.
So this is included now in this statement that where there is a sprout, there is a seed, meaning that a seed preceded the sprout, but obviously they do not exist simultaneously, like the smoke and the fire, or the current moment of fire exists simultaneously with the smoke produced with the previous moment of fire. But with the seed, there is no no more moments of seed coming along.
So it's not a correct sign,
Yeah.
On the smoky pass, fire exists because smoke exists, and that's how, we look at the fire coming off the top of the hill, the smoke coming off the top of the hill. So, there's a fire on top of the hill. Look at the smoke coming out of the trees, and look, somebody's lit a fire under the trees. So we're obviously talking about simultaneous. So, but when obviously there is no seed in the sprouting dish. As soon as the sprout has appeared, there is no seed. So there must be a way of saying, it's not the three modes. It's not a correct sign. So now, if you look at this this other example, this is the last example, or there's two examples here, and see how we didn't get time to look at these last week. I hope to do that, but anyway.
Can I just quickly say that what I was aiming at in the beginning when I got confused was that in the example of the smoke and fire, we are using the smoke as a sign to find the fire, whereas, no, sorry, again, no, I'll just mute myself. So
Page 55 then. With respect to it being said that smoke is a correct effect sign in the proof of the existence of fire on the smoky pass by the sign smoke. So that's us, that's our system. We're accepting that. So they're debating against our system. The subject smoke, it follows it is a correct effect sign in the proof of that syllogism because of your acceptance. Yeah, that's exactly what we said, an example of correct effect sign. Okay, so if accepted, that subject, smoke, it follows it is a correct sign in the proof of that syllogism's existence of fire on the smoky pass. Not just a correct effect sign, but therefore it is a correct sign in the proof of that. Well, yes, obviously we'd have to accept that. If accepted, it follows that if smoke exists, fire necessarily exists because of your acceptance. If you say that's a correct sign, then you're accepting that if smoke exists, fire necessarily exists. So yes, we accept that. Then the killer debate, the killer subject. The subject in the smoky mouth of uncle who is smoking tobacco. Fire exists because smoke exists. So that's exactly like a really dodgy subject, a really dodgy argument. But we've accepted, the pervasion. If smoke exists, fire necessarily exists. So now, what do we do in this situation?
I think that's a profound argument, personally.
Yes, it's forcing you to go deeper into the meanings of these three, what do you call them? Three modes. In the smoky mouth of uncle who is smoking tobacco, fire exists because smoke exists. If accepted, it follows that hot and burning exists in his mouth. Yeah. So again, it's kind of quite ludicrous. He's smoking, so the fire's outside his mouth and the smoke is inside. But if you say that's a correct, pervasion, if smoke exists, fire necessarily exists, which, everybody back as far as the Buddha, as far as I know, even non-Buddhists will accept that pervasion. But when they're debating, with the non-Buddhist schools in India, I think everybody will accept that, smoke's a sign of fire. But what do you do when they come up with a kind of a subject like that? And then just before we go into that a bit more, then you can just read the last debate, which is just another paragraph. Moreover, if there is a pervasion that if smoke exists, fire necessarily exists, then if the sweet-smelling incense smoke exists, then its fire necessarily exists because of your acceptance. Yeah, so the incense smoke is smoke, so there must be fire, that the incense fire sort of thing. If accepted, so the subject, at a time when the incense stick has stopped burning, and a place where there is blue smoke rising to the sky, fire exists because smoke exists. Please debate. So you can see how, the incense can stop. You can pick up the incense stick and stick the incense into a little dish of water or something, so that my fire immediately stops. But you've got a little bit of smoke going up into the air, haven't you? So you could easily have, yeah. So the fire stopped, but there is that little bit of smoke, the last moment of smoke just fading away into the sky. And that's smoke. So, so then you say, okay, so the fire exists because smoke exists. So is that a correct sign then? The subject, this is the easy one to deal with, I think, but it's, the subject at the time with the incense stick has stopped burning, in a place where there is blue smoke rising to the sky, fire exists because smoke exists. Correct sign, Jakob?
No.
It is a correct sign because it is the three modes in the proof of that. Smoke is the three modes in the proof of are existing at a time when the incense sticker stopped burning in a place where there is blue smoke rising into the sky.
I say there's no pervasion.
Positive pervasion.
So if smoke exists, fire does not necessarily exist.
Going against 2,000 years of tradition here. 2,000 years of Indian and Buddhist scholarship. They're all accepting smoke exists like this.
Yeah, but we have to try
These-
something else.
These Johnny-come-latelys from the country below the sea. They're suddenly saying, "Oh, there's no pervasion."
Yeah.
That's I'm not accepting. I'm not even going to debate that because everybody from Dharmakirti onwards and from Dharmakirti backwards to the Buddha, they've all accepted if the smoke is naturally fire. I'm not saying just because all history thought the Earth was flat, that means that the Earth has got to be flat. No, at a certain point people understand and it's not flat, it's round, isn't it? Yeah. I'm not saying just because those old seniors accept it, then we've got to just prove it by reasoning. Any offers? Oh,
Yes, you
Thomas.
can.
Thomas, hi. Yes, who said yes? Somebody
Me.
said-
Don't we just have to accept that whenever they say exists and a time isn't specified, we just have to interpret it to mean exists in its own time. And then we can accept, then we could also accept the sprout and seed thing as being a correct sign if we just say sprout exists in its own time because seed exists. Seed
Yes.
exists because sprout exists in its own time.
That's another way to go, which we just sort of tried a bit last week, probably as well, slightly, But you can see how in real time, in the real world, in the practical world, like in the example of the chaps in Tibet walking up the pass, feeling cold, and wondering how they're going to get warm, or wondering where they're going to light the cigarettes. They say, oh, they'll see the smoke, and to them the smoke is a sign of the actual presence of fire, not some fire maybe last week or yesterday, but fire now, and they walk towards that smoke, expecting there to be fire, so they could get warm or light their cigarettes or something. So the way it works in the world is that the smoke is a sign of simultaneous fire. In the way they're seeing it, and they're not just seeing one little tiny wisp of smoke vanishing into the air as if the fire's just been put out. They're seeing some sort of strong billowing smoke or something, some sort of column of smoke rising up. So it's obviously not the last moment of smoke because it's rising strongly or something. So, on that basis, then they would expect fire to be there simultaneously. So I think what you've got to do is you've got to look at, I think you've got to go to that word in the definition, which we haven't talked about much, and it doesn't talk about at all in the little explanations of the three modes. Is the first words, the definition of, for instance, the property of the subject, which is on page 13, by the way. By the person for whom it has become the property of the subject, and the proof of sound is impermanent, you see. So I think that's all important in this case, to deny, to refute that these are correct signs. That's all important now. By the person for whom it has become the property of the subject, and the proof of sound is impermanent. So what significance do you attach to that? Yeah. So it's not just the fact that it does exist on the subject, but it exists on the subject, and it has been ascertained by this person for whom it has become the property of the subject. So what qualities does that person who's for whom it has been the property, become the property of the subject, have to have?
Valid.
Well, I think, yes. What does he have to have doubt about?
Whether in this case, in the place where there's blue smoke rising into the sky, if there's doubts whether fire or not, fire exists or not.
Hmm.
In this case, it's direct perception probably, because we already realized that smoke exists in this place. We didn't saw fire.
Well, it specifically says in the subject that there is no fire. Yeah.
Yeah.
At a time when the incense sticker stopped burning in a place where there is blue smoke rising. So somebody has done something like they've taken the incense stick and just plunged it into water or something. So there's a little bit of smoke. But you know, it's clear to his eye consciousness that there is no fire there, because it's not hidden behind the back of a hill or anything. It's just right in front of him. So you know, he's ascertained there is no fire with his eye consciousness. He's realized it with his eye consciousness, and ascertained it with his conceptual consciousness without needing a correct sign, just from the information of his eye consciousness. So it doesn't need a correct sign to prove that there's no fire there. So he's not wondering, is the fire there or not? But I think the person who's the property, you know, the person for whom it has become the property, the subject, the proof of that has to be, as Jakob is saying, it's got to be like, there's got to be this thing, what we call the faultless subjects ought to be known in the proof of that, you see. What do we say? So the faultless subjects ought to be known. It is held as a basis of debate in the proof of sounds impermanent by the sign product, and there exists a person who, having ascertained by valid recognition that it is a product, is engaged in wanting to know whether it is impermanent. So that's, to me, it doesn't specifically link them in the text. But that to me is the you know, the extra meaning of by the person for whom it has become the property of the subject and the proof of sound is impermanent. So that guy, he's realized that sound is a product. He ascertains that. But to be the person for whom it has become the property of the subject, he has to be wondering, so okay, now is sound impermanent or not? But here, in this, the one about the incense stick, it is ascertained that in the place, at the time when the incense stick has stopped burning, in the place where there's blue smoke rising into the sky, that's a subject. So he's saying, okay, is there smoke on the subject then? You know, does the sign exist on the subject? Yes, there is smoke in there because there's blue smoke rising into the sky. But he's not wondering, is there fire or not? Because he's seen that there is no fire. He's ascertained the incense sticker stopped burning. So it's not a correct sign for him because it's not the property of the subject. And it's not the property of the subject because, there is nobody, he's not that person who's seen that smoke exists on the subject and is wondering whether fire exists on the subject or not. Because it's clear there's no fire. It's specifically telling you there's no fire.
Therefore, flawless subject is not present.
There's no flawless subject ought to be known, and therefore there's no person for whom it has become the property of the subject and proof of that. Yeah, so you think you're going to think a little bit like that, because we know it's not a correct sign, but that's all right. But how do you establish it? Using the definitions of the three modes, because that's how the challenge will come at you. It is a correct sign because it is the three modes. But unless you bring in that, the person for whom it has become the property of the subject and the flawless subject ought to be known, you'll be stuck for an answer. So that to me, I think, is the answer you give to that one. And the one above that, where it's the smoker's mouth, smoky mouth of uncle who's smoking tobacco. Yeah, my uncle used to smoke this huge big pipe, you know. Everybody thought it was completely normal in those days. He used to smoke this pipe and it's foul smelling tobacco. He's sitting at the kitchen table, blowing away at this pipe. Everybody think it'd be horrendous nowadays, but he just sat there with his pipe and smoking away. Yeah, so again, you can see how, if you think about that, you know, is there somebody who's established that there's smoke in the mouth, in smoking mouth of uncle, who has doubt whether there's fire there or not? Yeah, is there somebody who's established the property of the subject, you know, the sign on the subject, but not, but is still is engaged in wishing to know whether there's fire in the smoking mouth of uncle or not? Do you think there is anybody, Chris? Jim, sorry.
Not for this case, for the seed, maybe someone could ask if there is a cause of not something that probably would not think that it will.
Why not? Why wouldn't you? You've
Because
seen,
uncle is not screaming.
yeah, well, exactly. Either you, when you look inside his mouth to see if there's smoke there or not, then you'd see if there was fire because he'd have his mouth open and be looking. So you'd see if there was fire there. Or if he just blows a little bit of smoke out, so you can't see in his mouth, but still, you know, if he was fire in his mouth, he'd be screaming. So there wouldn't be any doubt, you know, that you wouldn't be wondering, is there fire in his mouth or not? So again, I think it's like,
What about a child? But are we saying the child can't have it's not got a sophisticated enough mind to be a valid observer of a flawless subject, so to be known? The child could do that, couldn't it? Think about fire in someone's mouth.
you mean, he could really think there is fire, there's smoke, there's fire in the uncle's mouth. Because he wouldn't realize that if there was fire in the uncle's mouth, the uncle would be feeling very uncomfortable and screaming or something.
Yeah.
You mean?
Yeah, you could imagine something like that, couldn't you? Like, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's
like a dragon, you know, they think he might be like a dragon or something. Do you know, like in kids' imaginations.
His uncle a fire eater.
Yeah, his uncle is a fire eater, yeah. Circus.
Yeah.
Person. Not that it doesn't really change what you're saying, but I'm just wondering how far then, you know, valid cognizer goes, if you get what I mean, in the human spectrum. Do we class children to have valid cognizers? We must do.
yeah, and children can perform quite a lot of reasoning from about the age of 3, can't they?
Yeah, exactly.
But it doesn't mean they can, you know, they can perform all sorts of reasoning, but they can perform very simple types of reasoning, like distinguish between 2 sweets and 3 sweets or something at the age of 3. So they say. I don't know. I'm not no expert. I'm not worked with children much. Yeah. So yes, think about that one. But then the one about the bean sprout in the dish is also very dodgy is a correct sign, because you know, if you can ascertain with your eye consciousness that there is a bean sprout in the bean dish, and which you've got to do that to check that there is a property of the subject, then you're going to see with your eye consciousness there's no seed there, aren't you? See what I mean? You know, somebody saying, oh, look, in the bean sprout dish with the bean sprout in it, it follows there is seed there because there is a sprout there. So yeah, the guy's got to check then, is there actually a bean sprout there? So he looks in the dish to see if this is a bean sprout there. But he's going to see with his eye consciousness whether there's a seed in there or not. It doesn't need a correct sign. You know? And he knows there's no seed there because it's a sort of his eye consciousness registers it. So there's no person who, having established that, you know, there's a bean sprout in there, it takes him long to work out whether there's a seed there. He doesn't need a sign to prove there's no seed. He just looks. Yeah, so think like that. So then, in the definitions of the forward pervasion and the reverse pervasion, the forward pervasion and the counter pervasion, it's the same in the sense that you've got this sign, this phrase here, by the person for whom it has become the second mode of the sign in the proof of sounds impermanent. And for the reverse pervasion, by the person for whom it has become the third mode of the sign in the proof of sounds impermanent. So it's not just got to, it's not like there's just got to be, it's not just like if there is smoke, there's necessarily fire, but there's somebody ascertains, you know, that there is, if there is smoke, there's necessarily fire in that situation. And not just that, but that person who ascertains that if there's smoke, there's necessarily fire, they've still got to be wondering, you know, okay, is there fire on the smoky pass or not? They ascertain if there's smoke, there's necessarily fire on the similar example, which is whatever it is, the garden bonfire, we might say. Where did you learn that if there's smoke, there's necessarily fire? I think I learned it, you know, watching my dad burning the rubbish in the garden. In the days you were allowed to burn rubbish in the garden, you know, so you chuck a load of rubbish in the garden and you burn it. And so that's where I established the pervasion, if there's smoke, there's necessarily fire. So you've established if the smoke is necessarily fire on the similar example. So you know, you're quite happy that you've ascertained if the smoke is necessarily fire. But not only that, if it's a correct sign, there's got to be somebody wondering, well, is there fire on the subject in question or not? So if it's an instant stick that's gone out, you know, there's nobody having ascertained that if the smoke is necessarily fire, there's wondering on an instant stick that's already gone out, well, is the fire there or not? So the stick's already gone out. We've all watched it being put into a bowl of water. So it's not just a question of ascertaining if the smoke is necessarily fire, but there's got to be a person who's then, having ascertained that in this particular context, is then wondering, if there is smoke, there's necessarily fire on the subject in question.
It's like that all works for these examples of like the uncle's mouth and the incense. But if we just like the original syllogism of like on the smoky pass, fire exists because smoke exists. Yeah. To ascertain those like three modes and then still have doubt regarding that subject, or in that place, still have doubt regarding the predicate. I don't see actually how that's possible because, you know, there's so many instances of observing fire without smoke. You know, how many times you walk into a kitchen full of smoke wondering, oh, is there fire here? Is there fire here? And you know, there isn't because it's been put out. I mean, if I saw smoke like lofting around, you know, a certain building, I wouldn't necessarily assume, oh, definitely has to be fire because there's smoke. I say, oh, there might be simultaneously now, but there also might not be. Just as that kitchen when the fire's been put out, but there is still lingering smoke.
It doesn't linger for very long, does it? No.
Well, if the windows aren't open, it could linger for hours.
Actual smoke or just a smell of smoke?
Smoke. Well, I don't know hours. I've never tested that, but you know.
Yeah, but of course, for hours.
It still follows.
Big fire, there will be for hours. You know, like if you think of the forest fires in Australia, when they extinguish the fire, then smoke is there for many hours afterwards. So it's true.
Well, yeah, but the smouldering leaves and stuff, there's little bits of stuff that are still burning. You know, there's still fire. You know, in the embers or the coals. You know, the embers.
But it's like, you know, they had Sydney was like covered in smoke, but there wasn't any like actual fires in that place. They'd been, you know, it was the remains, the leftover.
Yes, so you have to think about how this sign is being set. Is it, you know, you have to think about like if there's a little wisp of this blue smoke, you know, you could easily, without even knowing whether the incense stick has been put out or not, there's a little wisp of smoke, you know, so that, you know, you have the feeling that is, oh, that's the last bit of smoke before, you know, before there's no more smoke, you know, the last bit of smoke, and it's disappearing, you know. So the person who's walking up to the top of the pass, if he just sees a little wisp of smoke drifting away into the air, he's not going to say, oh, there must be fire there because of smoke, you know. But if he sees a nice column of smoke, a nice rich column of thick smoke, you know, going up into the air, then he's going to think there's fire. So he's going to
Yeah.
evaluate the smoke, isn't he? He's going to
Yeah,
say,
if you
is
say
that
billowing
like,
smoke, if you say billowing smoke or something like that, or smoke full of like live, you know, sparks, cool. But it doesn't say that. It just says the smoky parts. This is like smoky Sydney. It follows it's burning because there's smoke. There's like no pervasion. There might not be any fire presently in Sydney, but it's full of smoke.
yeah, but that's the smoke's just blown over from the forest, isn't it? You know, so
Yeah, but we're talking about that
Guys-
place on that pass or in Sydney. There's just no pervasion.
yeah, well, there is a pervasion because you know the person, what would you call it? You know, the second you know, the second mode of the what was it? The person for whom it has become the second mode of the sign and proof of that is not, the person's not there. He's not fooled, you see. The person doesn't see the smoke over Sydney and think, oh, is the fire there or not? He's not wondering. He
Why
knows that smoke's come over from, you know, some suburb, some forest outside Sydney. It's drifted over the city.
Well, he might be wondering.
he's not
"Oh,
wondering,
it's
is there fire on?"
thick. Maybe Sydney's like forests, parks have caught on fire. You know, he could totally be wondering. Look, it's so thick. Must be a real fire here. Perhaps there's fire here. It's got
Well,
worse.
if the parks are burning, if the parks in Sydney are burning, then there is fire there.
Yeah, but he's
fire in
doubting now.
Sydney. Hmm?
Maybe there's fire. Maybe there's not fire in Sydney. So he can't ascertain necessarily where there is fire. Where there's smoke, there is fire.
Yeah, so then that doesn't become a correct sign for him, does it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got to get on because I want to pass to the last two divisions of the 5 divisions of correct sign. So the 4th and the 5th. So that's on page 18. So I won't spend much time on the 4th one. It's just very simply saying, if something's created, it has to come from causes or something. It has to be, if it's produced, it has to be produced from causes. It's like very simple expression of dependently arising causes. But you know, people may need to be reminded of that. You know, they need to remind that they don't just get angry at something because it's so horrible. You know, the cause is why it's horrible. So you know, you need to remind something that some people sometimes, or yourself. Oh yeah, you know that all the things that are like this that are produced do have causes. So all it is saying, the 4th one, at the time of stating the subject, the procreated aggregates, they have their own causes because they are occasionally produced. So I'm not going to say much more about that one. That was correct effect sign which proves the self-isolate of cause. So it's not trying to describe what cause it is, what is the cause of the procreated aggregates, just saying they must have a cause because of the, you know, what kind of phenomena they are. They come into existence sometimes and go away, you know, like, so that's what I'm going to say, because the 5th one is needs a bit more explanation. The 5th, at the time of stating, on the lump of jaggery in the mouth, there exists the ability of the earlier taste of jaggery to produce the present form of jaggery, because the present taste of jaggery exists. So if you can just get through this one, then it will be the end of correct effect sign, so we can start with a new section next time. So if you see the type of correct effect sign that this is number 5, and it says a correct effect sign, which is a means of inferring a causal attribute. So that stops you, and what on earth are they talking about there? The meaning doesn't come across very easily, does it? The means of inferring a causal attribute. Oh my goodness, you know. But let's think about what's happening here. They're talking about a lump of jaggery, but you could easily have a piece of licorice, I think, or you know, a piece of strawberry, something with very distinctive taste, and maybe a distinctive color. Not to worry so much about the shape, you know, because you could feel the shape with your tongue, you know. So you don't need a correct sign to feel them, to know there's a lump of something in your mouth, really, because you can feel that with your tongue, you know. So the shape of it is a sort of, but you could have like you know, you could be eating the licorice to the point where the licorice is, the lumps of licorice or the pieces of licorice is all dissolved, but you've still got the taste of licorice in your mouth. And then, you know, if you open your mouth, you'll have a black, you know, your mouth will look black, won't it, or dark brown. So along with the taste of the licorice, you'll have, pretty surely you'll have the color of licorice in your mouth, let's say, which you wouldn't feel with your tongue. You wouldn't know that there is color in your mouth, or you wouldn't know there's black in your mouth just by feeling it with your tongue. So that kind of thing, you know, strawberry, you know. So strawberries have a very distinctive taste, fresh strawberries. I had a lot of them this year. You know, so when you've got that taste of strawberry still on your tongue, then you'd expect to look in somebody's mouth and see, you know, oh, red, the color red is still there from the juice and all that. So that's the kind of situation you've got a picture. So if somebody says, okay, look, so with the licorice in the mouth, then there exists the present color of the licorice because there exists the present taste of licorice. Yeah, I'm simplifying what's here. I'm not going along with what's in the book. I'm just trying to make it simple. So we're talking about present taste and present color. So that's what you can think about first. You see, so you've got the sort of flavor of licorice in your mouth, quite strongly. You know, you just swallowed the last bit of licorice, or it's just dissolved in your mouth. So it's like this fresh, really strong, fresh taste, not an aftertaste half an hour later or 2 hours later. But you know, the strong, fresh taste of licorice. Then, so then from that, can you infer? Can you have an inference, if I like, an eyes are realizing that the color of the licorice, or the visual form of the licorice, it is in your mouth, so you can't see it. You know, but you can infer it. Can you? So the sign would be something like, you know, with the licorice in the mouth, there exists the color of the licorice because there exists the taste of the licorice. Would you strike that as being reasonable? Yes?
Yes.
So if you said that is a correct sign, or that's, you know, you can reason from the taste of the licorice being there to the color of the licorice being there, then what kind of correct sign is it? So if to be an effect sign, you've got to have a relationship with effect and cause, haven't you? The effect is the sign has got to be the effect of the what you've put there as a predicate. But here we've got present color as a predicate and present taste as the sign. So there's no cause and effect. They're both simultaneous. But then you say, okay, well, there must be the same nature. You know, there's three types of correct signs: the correct effect signs, correct nature sign, which is coming up just below. So that's like sound, it is impermanent because there's a product. That's a correct nature sign. So there's going to be a relationship of the same nature between the predicate and the probandum, the predicate of the probandum and the sign. Relationship of the same nature, like that's, you know, if it is a product, it is in the very nature of being impermanent, sort of thing. Product and impermanent, same nature. You know, so the direct perceiver to which they both appear, they don't appear, you know, separately like this. They're just like whatever appears as a product appears in the very nature of impermanence. So that's a correct nature sign. But can you say that, you know, to the direct perceiver to which they both appear, to the taste of the licorice and the color of the licorice appear same nature? So they say no to that. They appear as different, you know, different natures. Okay, they're in the same collection. The taste of the licorice and the color of the licorice and the shape of the licorice and the smell of the licorice and the tangible, you know, feel of the licorice, they're all in the same connection. But still, the taste of the licorice and the color of the licorice have to be like, you know, they have to be separate natures. So they can't be the same nature. And the last kind of correct sign is the non-observation sign. So that's the they're the ones where you have negatives. So considering the subject sound, it follows this is not permanent because it's a product. So the negative, or you know, the sign about selflessness, you know, the person, me, I am not inherently existent because I'm a dependent arising. So those are the non-observation signs where you have a negative, you're denying something, negating something. But that's not happening here with the present taste and the present color of the licorice. So if you say, is a correct sign, what kind of correct sign is it? There's only those three.
You'd have to say,
So there is, pardon?
when you say correct effect sign,
Well, if it follows, it's a correct effect sign, then it follows there is common locus of that which is the explicit predicate of the abandonment, the proof of that, and the cause of the sign, and the cause of so there's a common locus of you know, being what the color of licorice and the cause of the color of the present you know, the common locus of being the present color of the licorice and the cause of the present taste of licorice.
that's not what the subject stated. That wasn't what the way it was stated initially, though, was it? The present taste of the present taste versus the present presence of color.
That's the way I'm presenting it. You know, the text is presented quite differently because they realize what I said, and I said, you know, with the licorice in the mouth, it follows the present form or the color of the licorice exists because the present taste exists. Now I said that, and it sounds plausible. Some guys here said it sounded reasonable, but it's not a correct sign, and so they go to a sort of more complicated expression in the book, and it's not a correct sign for, you know, well, what's the relationship between the sign and the predicate? This incontrovertible relationship that there's got to be. Yes, they're different substantial entities according to, you know, this our analysis. Although they do arise, abide, and cease together. So whenever there is one, there is the other, but somehow that's rejected as being a correct sign. In one of the other non-Buddhist schools that they have arguments with, apparently they do accept that as a correct sign. The present color of the licorice exists because the present taste exists. You know, if you look in the Catherine Rogers book, I was looking at in this afternoon, there is some non-Buddhist school who tries to accept that as a correct sign, and Dharmakirti, you know, kind of sort of knocks them off and says, no, you cannot say what kind of relationship there is between the sign and the predicate. Is very fussy, Dharmakirti. One has got to necessitate the other by the power of one being there, the other's got to be there. And it's like, not just so there's some sort of coincidentally they're there. So apparently that's not good enough to be a correct sign. This is not one of the three types. So you have to go in a more roundabout route.
I thought if they're the same substantial, if they're two conditional things in the same entity, then I thought they were necessarily same substantial entity.
Yeah, but they're not the same entity, and they're not the same substantial entity. They arise, abide, and cease together, but they're not the same substantial entity.
But would you not agree that the taste of the licorice and the colour of the licorice are the same entity?
No, they're not.
They're not the same entity.
No.
I would have thought that if the taste of licorice exists, then the colour of licorice exists. If the colour of licorice exists, the taste of licorice exists.
Yeah, well, it does. They accept that, but still, that's not enough to make it a correct sign. You read in Rogers, Catherine Rogers. She's saying, yeah, there's got to be this relationship, you see, which is the whole Dharmakirti kind of thing for the pervasion in Dharmakirti. You know, how do you know that if there's fire, there's necessarily smoke? Sorry, if there's smoke, there's necessarily fire. Or how do you know just if it's a product is necessarily impermanent? So that this establishing the pervasion is a big argument. You know, do you have to look at all the products in the world one by one and say, oh, they're all impermanent, so therefore, if it's a product, it's necessarily impermanent? So we've checked all the products in the world. Well, that's impossible. So why isn't there some doubt then? If you've checked, you know, so many products, but all of them, why shouldn't there be some doubts that there are some products which are permanent? So how does being a product prove that it is impermanent, you know, in this sort of pervasive way? And that's one of the really tricky aspects of correct science, not just for, you know, Buddhists, but in general. So then Dharmakirti starts talking about the relationship, you know, the relationship of one nature, the relationship, you know, of being, you know, effect related to cause. Subsequently related, they say in our language. Yeah, so they say that okay, so just because the color of the just because the taste of the jaggery exists or the taste of the licorice, you can't just directly from that establish the color of the licorice, because those two don't have any relationship between each other. Yes, you can say the color of the licorice is the same nature as the licorice, and the taste of the licorice is the same nature as the licorice. But that doesn't mean that the color of the licorice and the shape of the licorice, or the color of the licorice and the taste of the licorice, those two are the same nature.
Even though they're not the same entity, I can still, by way of the taste, kind of infer that the form is present. Yes,
that's what we're saying, but you have to take this roundabout route. You have to say that, oh yeah, the taste of the jaggery and the form of the and the color of the jaggery, they both come from the same causal collection. So you have to make it into a kind of an effect sign, because this is an example of the effect sign.
Right.
So you say, oh yes, so the present taste of jaggery is here, because I can taste that, I have a direct perception of that. Well, that's coming from the previous moment of the taste of jaggery. And then what? And then the previous moment of the taste of jaggery, it's a cause of the present moment of the taste of jaggery, and is a cause of you know, the present color of jaggery also. They both have the same causal collection, you see. So from the present taste of jaggery, you reason back, so there's a previous taste of jaggery. And the previous taste of jaggery is the substantial cause of the present taste of jaggery. And it's a cooperative condition of the previous of the present color of jaggery. And so if you go back in this causal route, then you can come out and say, oh yes, well then the color of the jaggery must be also there too. But it's like in this more roundabout way, which, you know, it uses the power of the, you know, effect depending on cause, sort of infallibly depending on cause. So you've got there's the causal relationship you use to establish it. So the subject, on the lump of jaggery in the mouth, there exists the ability of the earlier taste of jaggery to produce the present form of jaggery. See, so you've got if you've got the present taste of jaggery, you can realize, you know, its direct cause, you know, the earlier taste of jaggery, and then the earlier taste of jaggery, if it's genuinely the taste of jaggery, then it must produce, you know, it must be, you know, jaggery is a complex object with all the different, you know, sense kind of, you know, kind of sensations there. So, you know, if the early taste of jaggery produces the present taste of jaggery, it also produces the color of jaggery, it also produces the smell of jaggery, and so forth. So they work like that. So if it's able to produce the present mode of the jaggery, it's also able to produce the present mode of color of the jaggery. Because that's the way it is, you know, you'll have a causal collection in the previous moment of the color of jaggery, taste of jaggery, and all those, the smell of jaggery and so forth, or the licorice or whatever it is. So then they will produce a next moment of that collection.
Can you crayon? Can you
Wait
crayon?
a minute, Hanneli, please. Wait a minute, Hanneli. Yes.
But in the past moment of taste of jaggery produces the next moment of taste of jaggery, but not any the next moment of form of jaggery is produced by the previous moment of form. That's how it can be related.
Well, that's good thinking, but they all come. They work as a cause and they work as in combination. So in any kind of piece of material, say whether it's licorice or a piece of wood or you know, cup of water, whatever, you know, it's like you'll have all the four elements there. You'll have these you have the 5 sense elements, or the 5 sense particles there, you know, and so they all work together. It's not like the taste produces taste, the form produces form, the smell produces smell, but they all work together like that. So the taste is the substantial cause of the taste, but the form is the next mode of taste, but the form is this cooperative condition of the next moment of taste. And the smell is like the cooperative condition of the next moment of the taste. And the taste is like, you know, it in turn is a cooperative condition of the next mode of color. So the substantial cause of the next mode of color is the earlier mode of color, but the taste is a cooperative condition of it. So they're working together like that. So if you've got, in the next moment, you've got, you know, the present mode of taste, then you can reason back there's an earlier mode of taste. But if you've got that, then you must have the early moments of the other things as well. So they all produce the causes together. So you can also reason that there's a present moment of color. So it's a bit complicated, that one. But it's, you know, Dharmakirti as usual, going into detail. Yes, Hanneli.
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand how this could be watertight, because the reason is because the present taste of jaggery exists. But what about if it is the very first moment of tasting the jaggery, then there is no former taste or earlier taste of it. If the present taste is the first and only taste of it, then there is no earlier taste. I don't see how there is any necessary connection.
Well, is the sugar's, when the sugar, the white sugar is in the bowl, it's still sweet, isn't it? Even before you taste it, it's sweet. It has a taste. It is sweet, just like the sugar is white, even if you're not looking at it. So it is also sweet, even though you're not tasting it. So even before it goes into your mouth, it's still sweet. Like that. Yeah, so that's a little bit more tricky one. Catherine Rogers is the best to explain it. And she goes into a bit more detail maybe than I have.
Improving a cooperative condition.
Well, of course, there's only a variety of causes. If you're proving a cooperative condition, you are proving a cause. But you're proving a causal attribute, see. It's a means, you're proving a causal attribute. So you look at the present moment of taste, and you say that's caused by a previous moment of taste, and the previous moment of taste. If it can cause the present moment of taste, it can also cause the present moment of color as a cooperative condition of the present moment of color, because all those 5 sense things and the 4 elements, they all work together. So I have to think a bit more about that. Me too. So that's it for this session, really. So I've learned a lot, you know, going over these things, teaching it again. I've found myself figuring out things which has always been a bit in the dark for me, you know, even though I translated the book. still things I think, oh, you know, now I realize why the way saying that. Because it's very it's a very brief book, isn't it? It's really designed to make a lot of things to be worked out in the debating room. That's how that book's designed. It doesn't make everything crystal clear, beautiful, clear definitions. It gives twists in the definitions and twists here and tweaks there. So the students are forced to go out and debate it, you know. So that's how it's really designed, you know. So yeah, it takes a while to unpick it all. And we don't have the time to do all that debating now, so we're busy and everything. But still, we can pick up the great, you know, the sort of major points about how reasoning works, and then it'll give us a great confidence in, you know, evaluating the major signs like about subtle impermanence and emptiness and everything. So I think it's a great help in studying the Master like Nagarjuna, and you know, getting to the all-important emptiness and everything. Yeah, so we'll stop there. But you know, about middle of January or something, maybe we could hope we could carry on and do a bit more. Do the rest of it maybe. You know, we don't have to go so slowly. The first bits are the most bits that need the most care and the most sort of time spent on them. Anyway, you know, next year, hope you're around to join me.
Yeah.
Okay then. Hope that's been interesting for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much,
very
Geshe-la.
And have a lovely retreat.
Yeah,
Thanks very much.
Thank you,
Enjoy your
Geshe-la.
retreat.
thanks.
See you in
Another
January.
week.
Forward to it.
Yeah.